During the declared emergency, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings will be conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing. The participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry, and when your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Panel members participating today are Donald Taylor, Neil Palmer, Danny Bellissimo, Stan Kumorak, and I am Michael Clark, and I'm the panel chair, and we are all participating virtually today. All registered participants will be participating by audio only. And we ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaws that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment, and in the event of an appeal, the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure will be as follows. We'll call each item in the order listed in the agenda, first dealing with deferral items. I believe there's only one deferral item in this morning's agenda to be dealt with at the outset. And so we'll call each order in the item listed. And when an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with the presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to address the committee. And the committee may ask questions and then take the matter into the committee for decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and we'll comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. I see we have the clock showing up on the screen. When addressing the committee, please clearly start off by stating your name and address. And please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will go first on a contested application, make a presentation to the committee of their application. Please note that the committee may not interchange revisions to proposals made at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if being substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their presentations. And when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has a further 5 minutes to rebut only those issues and answer those questions that were raised by the speakers. That will then mark the end of the discussion on the matter, and the application will then be taken into the committee for a decision. I believe we have some preliminary business to take care of, the confirmation of the minutes from the February 10th meeting. If I could get a motion to approve those minutes, please. Mr. Komarek, thank you. Seconder for that. Mr. Bellissimo, thank you so much. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Just a point of discussion. We just got some revised procedural notices, and it says in there, before you speak, before you make a motion, you to mention your name. I, John Smith, make the motion. Maybe I don't know if we need that. We have the hands, and then I repeat, because this means you don't have to start unmuting yourself each time and muting. So if that continues to work, Madam Secretary Treasurer, I think that that's an acceptable procedure, if you agree.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so we have the minutes approved. Are there any files to close? I believe there actually is. We haven't had a file to close at the outset of a meeting in a long time. At 44 19th Street, Madam Secretary Treasurer.
I'm not sure why it was added to the agenda. It was closed already under our normal procedures.
Okay.
It hasn't been before the committee.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, we don't have to deal with that. How about any declarations of interest on the panels or staff on the matters before us in this morning's agenda? Are there any declarations of interest to declare? Okay, none. In that case, I guess we can get started. The first item number one is 2 AINSLEY Gardens. It's an application for a detached dwelling with an attached garage with 8 variances. Urban Forestry is looking for conditions 1 and 2. We have the site.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. We actually have a deferral request for item 5.
Okay, we'll deal with that at the outset. Correct. Okay, so item number 5. Item number 5 is 99 Rosemount Avenue. It's for a detached dwelling with a secondary suite. And we have a plan that's on the planning memo that this matter is an automatic deferral. I believe there's additional variances required, which is the reason. And the speaker on this application is Craig Race, the architect, agent for the applicant. Mr. Race?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, the applicant actually is not present.
Okay. Okay, so we'll deal with in absentia. So this is, I believe, an automatic deferral. Madam Secretary Treasurer, you can state for the record, then, of the absence of the applicant, what the reason for this deferral is.
Yes, they haven't. I mean, they should be here and they should know that as an agent. I think Nicole can confirm that they've been rescheduled for March 24th.
Yes, Barb, they have been.
Okay. So members, can I have a motion to the effect of deferring this matter? Mr. Blisser. Thank you, Danny. Seconded by Mr. Taylor. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, the matter is deferred. Okay, so we'll return to item number 1, 2 AINSLEY Gardens. Again, a detached dwelling with an attached garage with 8 variances, site-specific zoning bylaw. We have an arborist report, and transportation is advised they have no objection to variance number 8. We have urban forest requesting conditions 1 and 2, and the speaker is Puyan Rofi. Sorry about my pronunciation. Is Puyan there?
Yes, sir. It's Puyan Frugi.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good morning. My name is Puyan Frugi, and I will be speaking for 2 AINSLEY Gardens. To start with, I just wanted to add that for item 2 and item 1 and item 2 of the notice, we've actually removed those 2. The item 1 is the driveway width that is now reduced from 6.37 meters to 5.99 meters.
Sir, you have to refer to the public hearing notice. Variances 1 and 2 are coverage and FSI.
Sorry, could you go up on the notice, because there were 2 notices. There is one on December 8th and there is another one. If you could scroll up all the way to the date.
This is the public hearing notice. This isn't your zoning review.
Yes, I beg your pardon.
Yes, just go by the numbering in this notice so the members can follow along.
Yes, if you just give me a quick second, I will pull that up. Okay. So I'm going to start, I guess, with the first one then. So item number 1, the permitted gross floor area, the FSI. With regards to this item, the FSI for the site is restricted at 47%, which includes the garage and all the void areas in the building. we're asking for 59%. It is a difficult variance to meet in a way that it is calculated just because it is site-specific, but there are ample precedents for the FSI variance in the neighborhood at around 60 to 61% FSI range. And we think, the proposal we set forward in front of you is balanced, and it does take into consideration what has been proposed in the area and also meets all the required, we're also meeting all the required setbacks, front yard, side yard, and the rear yard setback. With regards to number 3, the building
Okay,
length.
sir, I don't think we need you to go through every single variance. We
Okay,
have
sure,
40 applications on a typical day, and if we did that with every application, it would take
I understand.
over 12 hours. So I don't think this is an application we need a fulsome presentation, sir, but you were mentioning at the outset that you've eliminated some of these variances.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So please just focus on the changes you've made to this, what we have before us, sir.
Okay.
So and then we'll just see if the committees have any questions rather than going through every variance with an explanation.
Not
Please
a
tell
problem.
us which ones have been eliminated or reduced.
Number 7, number 8, number 7, the stairs width is now reduced to 2 meters, which effectively will eliminate number 7. And number 8, the width of the driveway as proposed was 6.37 meters. Now we've reduced that to 5.99 meters.
Again, basically the both variances are now eliminated, is what you're saying.
Yes,
7
sir.
and 8 can
Yes.
have been removed. Okay,
No.
any changes to any of the other variances?
No, sir.
Okay, so let's just see if, and you're okay with urban forestry conditions 1 and 2? So let's see if committee members have any questions for you, or if someone's ready to weigh in with a motion. And we'll see.
Danny Bellissimo would like to weigh in for motion if there are no further questions.
Okay, Danny, it looks like there are none, so go ahead.
I move for approval of the variances on the conditions set up by forestry. That'll be variances number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay, and subject to urban forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Yes, I've
Okay,
already mentioned that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Seconder for that motion? Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. Thank you, Pouyen.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Our second item is 36 Eden Valley Drive. It's an application for a new rear deck. We have 2 letters of support from both adjacent neighbors at 34 and 38. And I believe that's all we have on this application. The speaker is Dennis Paganelli. Mr. Paganelli?
Yes, good morning. It's Dennis Paganelli.
Okay, and I see you're the homeowner as well as the agent, the co-owner of the home. Okay, so you want to build a new deck. You have one singular variance, which looks looks pretty minor. Let's see if committee members have any questions for you, unless you'd like to advise committee of anything before I do that.
No, I think it's a fairly straightforward thing. So if you guys are okay with it, I'm happy to
Yep.
provide and let you guys vote.
Okay. Okay. Any questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
Danny Bellissimo is ready to make a motion if there are no further questions.
Go ahead, please.
These drawings are very clear. I'm glad he put together a lot of effort in showing us exactly how this comes together. I move for approval of the variances, find them minor in nature.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that motion? Mr. Komarek, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous, another unanimous approval. Okay. Somehow I just lost my bookmarks here. Okay, so we have approval on that one. So let's move on to item number 3, 38 Ridgemount Road. This is for an east side covered deck with 1 variance. The one change is the coverage. 1 variance is the coverage is going from 33% permitted to 42%. We have opposition. We have a planning report for information, noting that the dwelling is already at 37%, and we have advisory comments from Metrolinx.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
My name is.
On this application, I'm sorry. We have these 2 speakers. We have the owner, Damiquan Bruzese on behalf of Fortunato Bruzese, the son of the owner. And then we have a neighbor at 36 Ridgemount Road registered to speak as well.
Great. Thank you. So good morning, committee members. My name is Damien Brutzese. I'm here today regarding application 80583-21EYK as it pertains to the addition of a new structure located at the rear northeast face of 38 Ridgemount Road. So I would just like to quickly address the purpose for my proposal, the nature of the variance, as well as maintaining the integrity of the Etobicoke York bylaw provisions. So the purpose of this structure is to create an outdoor space suitable for year-round gatherings with family and friends. The idea was born out of the pandemic due to restricted contact made by the mandates. The subject structure, including the variance, is 15 by approximately 30 by 15 feet, located in an underutilized area of our property. This would be similar to a space created by a conventional L, if you had an L-shaped property. So there's just some dead space there. The property size in comparison is approximately 118 by 48 feet, leaving in excess of 50% of the lot excluded from this proposal. So the dimensions indicated are necessary to achieve the most productive use of this space. So we're planning an outdoor kitchenette, small dining and lounging area that can be used all summer as well as the wintertime with the addition of a few heaters. The location of the structure was specifically selected as there's no other area with immediate access to our existing home other than the front door, which would be nonsensical. So the simple construction and sheer openness of the structure, as seen in the submission, are such that the space on which it is built is virtually untouched. The structure has no enclosures, there are no walls, and a planned roof that is completely transparent. This makes for an entirely unobstructive addition to our home as the flow of sunlight is unimpeded and nature unaffected by the space. In closing, our proposal is simply 5 6x6 posts with a transparent roof, well within our property limits, I believe 4 feet away from our property line, adjacent to our neighbor's residence, who's here speaking today, I believe. Therefore, the integrity of the community plan is unchallenged. The incremental difference made by this is virtually indistinguishable from a space without it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Before we hear from the neighbor, I don't know if the neighbor is the author. We do have one letter of concern or opposition, but it does not have a signatory on it. Oh, it says it's from Adriano. Okay, so that is the speaker because it says it's signed not Adriano. It's signed concerned neighbors of Ridgemount Road, which is obviously not permitted. I'll take it into the record that Mr. Adriano Sanguigni is acting or speaking on his own behalf and no one else at this point because that's it's his letter. It's not signed by anyone else. And I don't know unless he has written authorization from neighbors to speak. We'll take this that it's from him alone. Okay, sir, welcome. First of all, before we do this, does anyone have any questions for the first speaker, the son of the owner, the agent? No questions for him? Okay, so then let's go over to Adriano. Welcome, Adriano.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Okay, great. Thanks for taking my comments today. Good morning to the committee. My overall concern with the structure being built at 38 Ridgemount Road is the overall size. It's roughly 30 feet in length. And when you compare that to any sort of typical built or purchase structure from a big box store, they tend to range from 12 to 14 feet only. The structure does stick out into the backyard. And when you look at it from other adjacent yards, it's very awkward and our other neighbors can see it, including myself. I don't feel like there's any reason why it needs to extend past the original patio area. They are essentially extending that area by 5 to 6 feet. And again, it is very ugly for the neighbors on both sides when they're looking at that unit. My request is that it be reduced to about 24 feet, which would match the original patio size. And I still think that would be more than enough space for the neighbor to enjoy time outside with their family. Again, it would still be over double the size of a standard gazebo or pergola. I also have a concern about the overall height. there appears to be some variances from the drawing submitted to the overall height of the structure. When you take measurements from the ground all the way to the very top, when you look at it from the short side, it's actually 9.5 feet, not 8.5 feet. And that's inclusive of all the wood that's been placed on the east side of the structure. And when you look at the west side of the structure, it's 10.5 to 11 feet, not 10 feet as indicated. So there are some minor variances from the drawing to the actual structure itself. When I look out my side windows, I do see two very large pieces of 2x14 or 2x12 wood, and that blocks two of my windows, actually three. We can see it from three of my windows. And my request would be that they lower the height to under 8 feet, which again would match more of a standard height for a gazebo or pergola built of this nature. I also want to ensure that whatever roof is added to the structure is properly set back from the property. I can't say for sure whether it is or isn't because it has not been built yet, but I want to ensure that that is respected when it does happen. So again, overall, I think if it was reduced from 30 feet to 24 or 25 feet, it would still be more than large enough for the neighbor to enjoy the time outside. It would not encroach into any backyard space. And if it's possible to reduce the height even by 1 to 1.5 feet, it would also improve the views from my windows. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Sanguini?
Danny Belisma has a question. Sir, this structure has already been built to what I can see in the pictures. That's correct, right? Has it progressed from those photographs?
Not from the pictures I sent in. It's the same.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for the speaker? Let's see those pictures as you scroll. Okay. Yes, go back to the agent to respond to the concerns of the neighbor.
Hello. Thank you for your comments. So I mean, as far as the length of the structure itself, we had planned a specific area for entertaining our family and our friends, which is why we made it 30 feet instead of 24. So as far as the height of the structure, we would not be able to build it lower, as the adjacent structure or the existing home on which the structure is attached, there are windows that we would completely be blockading if we had reduced the height of the overall project. Which I mean, obviously, we don't want a 2x10 just across any of our windows. Sorry, let me see here. Moreover, I mean, unless of course we wanted to create a pretty significant slope, which is not, I mean, something that makes a lot of sense. With respect to the comment about the structure being ugly, I mean, we haven't had any complaints at all from any neighbors. So we have not heard any of this. We've spoken to a few of our neighbors, in fact. Moreover, the structure itself is about 4 feet from our property line, I believe almost 8 feet from our neighbor's home. So those photos appear to be misleading. It's difficult to tell whether or not they're zoomed in or not. Frankly, there is no real obstruction here. Let's see here. And with respect to the discrepancies, I don't believe that those are accurate. I have not seen my neighbor come onto our property and measure our structure, so I'm not sure how these figures came to pass. But again, overall, I would have to disagree with that statement as well. And again, that's really it here.
Not blocking the
Um,
windows.
We are not blocking any of our neighbors' windows. In fact, so the structure is completely transparent. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for any of the speakers, either the agent or the neighbor, or is someone ready to weigh in with the motion?
Danny Bellissimo has questions of the for the applicant. Can staff put on the drawing, the last drawing that was sent? I'm sorry, these drawings, I can't identify them because there's no title on them. I've never seen such preliminary drawings to this committee, so this is quite a surprise to me. But could you show on the last drawing that window? Can you zoom in on that section? So my first question, sir, is that you've already started building this structure, correct, without a permit?
The structure, yes.
Yeah, so you realize that the city of Toronto requires building permits to build structures, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you. So the other question is, these drawings, I'm an architect, these are preliminary drawings. I can't tell what type of roof that is. I can't tell where the eaves trough is. I can't tell the soffit or the fascia. Like, these are like hand sketches by children. I'm sorry, I cannot approve this, so I'm going to move for a refusal because the drawings to me are so preliminary. To me, it's an abuse of this committee. So, and I find the structure is overbearing, and I have no idea. You say there's going to be a clear roof, but the drawing doesn't say that. There's no labels on the drawings, no scale, no dimensions adequate. So, I'm going to move for a refusal of the application. I find that it's not a variance that that we should be approving it. Is not minor in nature because we can't understand the full impact of this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Do we have a seconder for Mr. Bellissimo's motion? Okay, if there is no seconder for that motion, the motion fails. So I need another motion. Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Chair, I respect Mr. Bellissimo's observations on this, but I'm strongly influenced by the fact that this proposal doesn't require any yard variances, building length variances, height variances. So my inclination is, and I will move approval on grounds that the proposal meets the 4 tests. And my motion would be without conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. We have a seconder for that motion. Mr. Kumar.
Just wondering if I can do what I would consider to be a friendly amendment and just say that since we don't have the details of what's actually to be built, we've seen what has been built and I think we're okay with it, but just want to add a condition that the roof be of some kind of material that's see-through or that's
translucent. I think.
Translucent, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. If I may add that.
Mr. Taylor, I see your thumbs up.
Yes, thumbs up, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. So all in favor, and I'd like to point out, we also have the positive planning report for information advising that the house is already at 37%, so they don't see the size as an issue, and we have their tacit approval as well. All in favor? So the motion carries 4-1 with Mr. Bellissimo dissenting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you to the neighbor and thank you to the applicant, and hopefully you can figure out a way to live harmoniously with this. Okay, the next application is item number 4, 74 Jutland Road, Unit 35. There is some reference to Unit 51 construction. I don't know what that's all about, but it looks like this is to permit a wellness, massage, and recreational uses in Unit 35 of this multi-industrial complex. We have a cover letter supporting material. We have planning requesting a refusal of the application, recommending that given that the proposed uses do not conform with the employment area policies and do not support the economic function of the core employment area. They feel that the uses will detract the general public will possibly cause disruption to the industrial operations on the site, and induce others to want to locate during the industrial area. So we have that. We do only have the one speaker, Julia Pearden from Dunbar Design, the agent for the applicant. Ms. Pearden?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So I've outlined the application. Perhaps we can get your supporting materials and cover letter up on the screen, and you can give us a presentation as to why this application is worthy of support, notwithstanding the negative staff report.
Thank you. Good morning, members of committee. My name is Julia Pearden, representing the applicant and owner of Unit 35 of 74 Jutland, who are the business owners of a physiotherapist office and fitness studio owner. I speak as a representative, but also as a professional registered planner with many years of experience. So the proposal is for a 200 square meter unit within a larger condo industrial commercial complex, which features offices, creative industries, small manufacturing, and restaurants. If you refer to the included floor plans, the proposed business is a physiotherapy wellness center on the main floor and a fitness studio exclusive to the upper floor. In addition to providing traditional physiotherapy and fitness training services, the uses would also provide specialized services servicing one-on-one training to employees working in this development on their lunch hour or after work. The requested variances are to permit a wellness center and recreation use, which is a personal fitness studio. You should note that recreation uses are permitted under the zone, but with the stipulation that it must front onto a major street. As the development does not front onto a major street, but is near one, we need a variance to permit that use. I would like to address right off the bat the staff report from planning, which states that they're of the opinion that these proposed uses do not conform with the employment area policies. Although you may respect staff's opinion, I urge you to consider the following reasoning as to why it should be approved. Again, I remind you that the proposals to permit a wellness center and one-on-one fitness training to people in the immediate area. The intent of the OP is to permit small-scale service uses that service employment uses. The proposed uses are small in scale and will service the employees that will be working in the development. The staff report also notes that these uses may disrupt industrial operations in the area, whereas in my opinion, these uses are quite the opposite. The wellness and fitness studio component provides for the wellness and fitness of people and employees that will be working in the development. And coming out of a pandemic, it is more important than ever to keep people well and get them back to work. This use facilitates that, and I can't think of a better small-scale service use to put in an employment area than a wellness center. To put into context, there are other service uses that are permitted in this zone, such as banks, printing establishments, service shops, restaurants, kennels, and pet services. Body rub services are even permitted. However, massage therapy and wellness centers are for some reason not included in the list of permitted uses, although they have similar qualities to the intent of uses that I just mentioned. Pet services are even permitted, but services directed to the health and wellness of people are not. Body rub services are permitted, but normal massage therapy is not. I urge you to consider the logic in that. I disagree with staff's opinion that these uses do not fall under the spectrum of employment or employment supportive. The OP does not list a comprehensive list of permitted uses and notes that small-scale service uses are permitted. We are not requesting additional uses to be permitted under the OP. Although the uses are not permitted under the bylaw, it does not mean they're not captured under the high-level direction of the OP. And as such, the suggestion that a conversion is required to allow these uses is simply not correct. If you refer to the supporting material I submitted, there have been variance amendments in employment zones that have been granted in the City of Toronto previously for both recreational uses that do not front onto major streets, wellness centers, and other similar uses without the need for a conversion or OPA. One on Islington and a couple near Laird Road in East York. There are also 9 gyms or fitness studios operating in the immediate employment area which are not on major streets, and at least 2 wellness health centers that are in the immediate employment area. Lastly, wellness and fitness massage therapy are already permitted in an employment zone. It's called the EO, Employment Industrial Office Zone, which again suggests this is a small-scale service use appropriate and meeting the intent of the E-zone. The proposal is also minor in nature, encompassing only 2% of the whole development and not triggering any additional parking. The proposal is appropriate and desirable, which is being welcomed in the development, which is called Jutland Square. And as a last thought, if you think the massage and wellness components are not supportable, I urge you to consider just permitting the fitness studio recreation use component. As I mentioned, this is permitted but only on a major street, so there should be no issues of employment policy applicability. We would also be open to conditions which permit these uses on a temporary or accessory basis. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pearden. I have a question. Actually, this is an area I have some expertise in. I managed large industrial plazas for many years. So interesting when I read the planning report and then your explanation. So just to get a context, the other uses in this will be designers, brokers, lawyers, real estate and property management office, film producers, and a chocolate factory. It's not a question. So this is sort of a light industrial, a prestige employment. Used to be the old wording, as opposed to it's not like you have a place where they're killing chickens or large industrial uses, heavy metal type uses. This is not that type of industrial park, correct? Is that correct?
That's exactly correct. This is tailored to more office uses. We actually prohibit those hard industrial uses within the condominium documents. So those uses will never be here.
Right. So I would agree if that was the case with planning that, it's going to bring other people and it's not conducive and people are going to get hurt and it's going to, because they're doing heavy industrial type uses or something that's not compatible. And also you mentioned it's in the most northerly building. Is that the building that's closest to the main street?
It's actually at the rear end of the development. Yeah.
But in other words, thank you for your presentation. Let's see if anyone else has any questions for you as well. Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, Ms. Pearden, good to see you again. Just a question for you. You mentioned about perhaps a term limit on the approval. Is this a lease then and not a purchase?
It is a purchaser.
Okay.
But they've gone ahead and purchased it and would at least to get some years of use out of this unit.
So a use for a temporary period wouldn't really suit them, I don't think, as opposed to it being a lease.
Right. The preference is more of a permanent. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I see there's a reference here that directly south of the property, there's a kitchen sink and faucet manufacturer. That's a little more heavy, but you're saying there's, the adjacent users, Dollarama, Rona, fast food, McDonald's, residential. So it's not like it's in a heavy industrial area. That was my issue of seeing whether it's compatible. And your list, if it's correct, of designers, brokers, lawyers, real estate and property management office, film studio, and a chocolate factory. Well, so the question is, I guess my question is, if someone else, will you have to come back on an ad hoc basis every time a use is proposed, or is this just something that was left out of the bylaw in your presentation, that they do mention other similar uses that could locate here, or will you have to come back every time one unit wants to have a use that's considered outside of the employment area? Use?
We would have to come back to committee to get that approval. So this is the only additional uses that we're asking just for this particular owner. It would just be for this unit.
Okay, so it's not like it's opening the floodgates and you'll have a chance every application in the event would come back to be dealt with on its merits. Okay. Any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
Anybody listening would like to make a motion? If there are no further questions. I find, given the presentation and the other uses in the development, I find that this is minor in nature and compatible with the other uses, so move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that. Mr. Palmer, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Pearden.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, item 5 has been deferred. So we can move on to item number 6, 382 Melrose Street. It's an application for additions. And those additions are 1-story front addition, a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling, a new front porch, and to extend the existing rear yard deck. And there are 5 variances. We have planning with proposed or suggested conditions of approval to be constructed as illustrated on the site plan. And that's all we have on this application. The speaker is Craig Race, architect, agent for the applicant. Mr. Race.
No, that's incorrect. It's Mark Viera with Epic Designs for number 6.
Sorry, I was looking at number 5. Sorry, sorry, Marco.
No problem,
Just want to
Mr.
make sure
Chair.
you're paying attention.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Mark Viera here at 257 Dunraven Drive. And as you mentioned, it is for a proposed second story over the existing 1-story, even though the proposal is smaller in footprint, the existing footprint. And that's why we've got 3 of the variances that are basically triggered from an existing condition. If you want, I can continue with the presentation, or I can answer any
I don't think
questions.
we require a presentation. You're okay with the planning suggested condition of approval?
Yes, we have no concerns to be entitled.
Okay, Marco, let's see if the committee members have any questions for you.
Danny Bellismo, just a very quick question. You mentioned it's smaller than the existing footprint. Can you explain where, for some reason, when I zoom in on your drawings, it blurs. I can't get it too sharp enough for me. Thank you.
Okay, so basically, if we start on the northeast side, there's a projection at, that's, site plan is probably best. Or I guess that works. The rear elevation, there's a 1-story section there. Currently, it's a master bedroom. That's right there on the bottom left of the rear elevation. That is the extent of the rear. The second floor comes across the in line with the porch that's there now, basically. And the front of this proposal has the garage that sticks out further, and the second floor is essentially in line with the back of the garage, and it jogs towards the entrance.
Thank you. I can see that clearly now in your elevations. Thanks for explaining that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion? I can't see everyone's, I couldn't see your hand. Mr. Taylor. Thank you.
Taylor, prepared to move approval on grounds that the proposal meets the 4 tests. And my motion for approval would be subject to the Community Planning Department condition.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for that motion. Mr. Bellissimo, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, our next application is item number 764 BELLMAN Avenue. It's an application to construct a 2-story rear addition, a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling, a rear yard deck, and a detached garage in the rear yard. And there are 4 variances. We have a site-specific zoning bylaw, photos, transportation as conditions of approval. But there is reference to opposition and petition in opposition, but that's regarding item number 22, as pointed out by Member Palmer to us in our review. So that's not relevant. As well as we have urban forestry looking for condition 2, and in the additional materials, where perhaps we can get on the screen, we have a revised notice highlighted in yellow to show the changes. And now we only have 3 variances, 2 of which have been revised. So they've eliminated a variance and reduced another one. The speaker on this application is Joe Sabatino.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
Members of committee, my name is Joe Sabatino of Sapcon Design, 34 Moines Avenue. I am the agent.
Yes, staff, can we get that revised in the additional materials, a revised notice up on the board? The screen, sorry, while you're speaking. Go ahead, Mr. Sabatino.
Yeah, we're proposing to build a rear addition with a 2nd story over an existing bungalow. We tried as best we could to get everything under the GFA, but unfortunately we couldn't. So we're asking for the 2% over. The existing driveway is, it's existing already. We want to maintain it. It's similar to every other driveway pretty well on the street. It starts off with a double driveway in the front for the 2 cars, and then, it transfers into a single driveway to the rear. Item 3, the air conditioner. The
Sorry,
owners do-
staff, can you please get that where you had the right one on the board from the additional materials, but now you put the old one up without the highlighting? Can you put the plan, the most recent plan? That's it. There you go.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. That's
Sorry,
item number
that's not
8.
the-
That's
the wrong item.
Yeah, 64 Bellman does not have a revision.
Oh, sorry, it's
That's
the
okay.
it's on the next application. My mistake. It's on item number 8. I just saw my notes. It's in between. My bad. Sorry. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Sabatino.
Yeah, as for item 3, the air conditioner, the owners do plan to put a pool in the backyard, so they want to save as much of the rear yard as possible without having an air conditioner. So putting it on the side, the abutting properties are the rear of the neighbors, not the side. So we feel that noise would not be an issue at that point. If you do look at the drawings or the Google Earth picture, you can see how the property is situated. And then for item 4, rear garage, basically want to maintain, like I said, as much of the rear yard as possible for a pool. So we'd like the garage moved more in line with the other properties on the street. If you do look at the Google Earth, there are properties that are within 3-4 feet of the rear yard, not 6 feet. We feel these items are minor nature and hope to get them approved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sabatino. Sorry for that confusion.
That's right.
Does anyone have any questions or is someone ready for a motion?
Yeah, question from Palmer. Sir, did you read the comments from transportation?
Yes, I did.
Okay, are you able to comply with their suggestions to, I guess, restore the curb cut and limit the driveway width at the curb?
I believe we can do that.
Okay, well, you're going to have to if we give approval and go with the transportation conditions.
And then we're going to have to.
Okay,
Okay.
that might, affect the ability to park in the front yard without using part of the municipal right of way. But if you said you can live with those conditions, then
If we have to, I mean, if it's a matter of approval or not, then it's a different story. If we'd like to keep the existing, if you look at the Google Earth drawing, we'd like to keep the driveway the way it is.
Okay, well, you might not be able to do that if you look at the conditions of transportation, unless I'm mistaken.
We're asking for the 5.96 meters on it. We're asking for the 3, which would make it a little difficult. Well, I mean, it would make it a little difficult because it's only 25 feet frontage. If you look at the other neighbors, pretty well everybody on the street has the same situation. So we would like to keep them the way it is. Just makes it difficult with the car jockeying.
Okay, well, I mean, that's why you've got to clearly look at these comments before you come to the meeting. These comments are dated, from a week ago, February 16th.
Well, we can abide by we can abide by the transportation.
Oh, okay. All right. No further questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Palmer. Any other questions or is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Chair, I find the variances to be in keeping with the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 2 and the transportation services conditions.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion?
Stan.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Sabatino.
Thank you.
Okay, on to item number 8, 11 James Street. This is the one that we have revised notice in our supplementary package. This is for various additions, a 2-story east side addition, including an attached garage, a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling, two 2nd-story rear platforms, and 2-story front, rear, and west side additions. So there's lots going on here. There are 5 variances associated with that. We have a cover letter, an arborist report. We have the Long Branch character guideline checklist completed. We have a previous decision on this property of severance back in August 2018. Planning is looking to either modify or refuse. Number 7, James, is in opposition. We have in the revised notice 3 variances only. 4 and 5 have been eliminated, and the others have been revised as well. Items 3 and 1, 2 remains the same. We have 3 speakers for this application. The owner, Gordon Bendas. Yes, he's the agent and the owner, correct, co-owner. And then we as well have a speaker from Mr. Choltz from the Long Branch Neighborhood Association, as well as the neighbor at 7 James, who wrote in opposition. So let's hear first from the homeowner. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker and committee. My name is Gordon Bendas. I live at 11 James Street. We purchased the building December 2019, which is before the previous submission to the committee, which we were not a part of, so completely different.
Sorry, sir, in your presentation, if you could just touch upon, very importantly, the modifications requested by planning staff, whether those are acceptable or not.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So we worked with planning to identify their concerns and work with their concerns. So we revised our, as per the cover letter, the variances based on those discussions with Etobicoke planning. So what you have now, that revised set of variances is what we currently are proposing.
Okay, it looks like your length, they wanted 18.482. You're giving them 18.49. Not much to quibble. Same thing about they wanted the floor space index at 0.499999, and you came in at 0.5, which is, I think, pretty close. And you've eliminated variances 4 and 5. They wanted. Okay, so staff can look at what you've done and look at what they've requested and come to their own conclusion. So please proceed. Sorry.
So yeah, so basically the highlighted that is basically based on the discussions what they asked for. I thought we did give, but I guess it looked pretty close. Also, we worked or had discussions with the Long Branch Neighborhood Association, make sure, if they had any concerns that we could address that prior to final submission, which I believe we did. The main nature of the building and the variances is to basically avoid the trees. We are working with a structural engineering firm and an arborist to make sure that, one of the things that we like about the area are the trees. So that's part of the build. Some of the variances are due to that and working around the existing trees. So I would like to stress that and that the variances meet the 4 tests, and that we are working, or that we did work with planning and the neighborhood association to appease, the neighborhood and make sure that we match the fabric of that.
Okay, glad to hear that you had discussions with them, and Mr. Charles is here, so we'll be hearing from him after you, as well as the neighbor at 7 James who wrote in. Okay, so do committee members have any questions for the homeowner, or at this point we'll hear from the neighbors and he'll have a chance to respond. There's the neighbor and the Long Branch Association. No questions?
Yeah, no, Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just, can you explain why you didn't implement the recommendations of community planning precisely? I appreciate that you've come very, very, very close, but I'm just wondering what would incline you to request, for instance, in variance 1.
Sorry, Donald, through you, Mr. Chair, when I made the revision sheet, they actually did do exactly what the community planning asked, but I rounded up instead of down. So, because we only do to 2 decimal places, so we can change those numbers to 0.499 and then 18.4, whatever it is. I'll put it in the waiver.
That's good to hear. I was concerned that there was some unnecessary gamesmanship going on here, but I accept that explanation. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Nicole. Okay, any other questions? Or if not, let's hear from Mr. Bendjasari. Was there anything else you wanted to add? I sort of jumped in. I assumed you were done. Mr. Bendaz?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I absolutely, like Nicole said, we basically had many discussions with planning and met what they wanted to the T. And basically it was a discussion that's where we came up with the numbers based on those discussions. So there was no gamesmanship. We want to play by, we want to make everybody happy, including the neighbors, right? So this is
Yep.
part of the process.
Yeah, I think, especially you're the homeowner doing this. Sometimes, I guess, when there's, it's a third party builder and they figure, they eventually sell it. And then, the neighbors are less upset with someone who bought than someone who actually did the work. So
Exactly. And we're not here to
wanna
split the lot or
so,
leave after we built.
Okay, so it'll be interesting to hear from Mr. Scholes, whether the Long Branch, what they have to say. So let's hear from Mr. Scholes. You want to go last, or in this case, you care? We'll hear from Mr. Schwartzman or Ms. Green first. Andy? Or, okay, Nicole, is anyone, the two neighbors, or either neighbor or Mr. Scholes ready
Sorry,
to proceed?
Andy, sorry, Mr. Chair. Andy,
I usually go last, but whatever
Yeah.
you prefer.
Okay, so let's hear from either Mr. Schwartzman or Ms. Green.
I think moving forward, Mr. Chair, we'll just go in the order of the speakers list, so we're not
Yeah,
just
okay.
spinning around.
Yeah, I know. I just usually like to accommodate, at least when there's a long list of people and we have 8 people speaking, the Long Branch people like to go last. And
I know, but we can
accommodate.
just stick to the
Yeah,
list.
okay.
Thanks.
Okay, Andy.
Good morning. It's Mr. Schwartzman here. I don't know if you want to hear from me first.
Go ahead. You're on the line.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I go by Jonathan. First of all, I just want to say that I don't want this to be construed as us having issues with our neighbors. We're sensitive to that, and Gordon and Mary have proven to be excellent neighbors in the time that we've been side by side with them. So we actually want them to be able to improve their property and their house, because we're certainly aware from the prior owners, the nature of the house, some issues with it, limits of it. So we're not opposed to a project of this kind. We just have some concerns with it. The principal concern, I guess, is just, number one, this has come in as additions to a home, but obviously it's a lot more than simply adding on. It's effectively building a new house over the footprint of the old one. And I guess we have some concerns just with the overall size of it, because what's not reflected in the photos that you have are that the homes surrounding it they're relatively modest bungalow and raised bungalow homes. So this is definitely quite a different type of home. There's a home across the street that is a detached 2-story brick home, but it's a little further back and it's not as obvious as what's proposed. So that's a little bit of a concern. The comparison with the lakefront promenade property it's very, very different from this. I think the principal issue we have is with the east side, obviously, and that this is proposing to be very close on the east side. And so I saw the variance and the city planning's response to that, asking that it be not 0.51 of the lot size, but 0.49, which is not much of a difference. But that originally, I guess the requirement was 0.35, if I'm not mistaken. What I would suggest is somewhat smaller than 0.49, and that the difference be on the east side, then instead of almost abutting the property line by maybe a foot or two, that there be a little more space, maybe about 3 or 4 feet, something a little more. Currently there's a garage, it's reflected in the photo, that's frankly pretty decrepit, and it's right up against the property. So we'll be happy to have that gone, but would prefer to have a little more space rather than a two-story, effectively a wall right up against our property. So I think that's a principal concern. There are other concerns that I recognize aren't part of the planning process in terms of vehicles, et cetera, that we set out.
Yeah.
One thing I guess that isn't clear to me from the revisions and what is now and is not going forward with the platform at the back, what is that going to look like? Because I guess the drawings or the artistic renderings show a two-story, I guess, addition in the back with a platform, and so it's not clear to me what of that is still intended. We had some concerns with that just in terms of, I guess, some privacy aspects, and that was I saw in the planning department's comments. So I mean, effectively, those are the main things that we would want to address. Is the size of the building, particularly on the east side, and then in the back, what's actually going to be happening.
Okay, sir, and you've seen the revised variances submitted by the applicant and the additional, we just had it up on the screen, the highlighted one, so you realize that they have eliminated and reduced some variances, but maybe you can be less than 0.499, but they have reduced the number of platforms. So
all right, is from what you've put up, can I just see the screen with what the back will look like with the revisions, if that's possible?
Yeah, staff can do that. We have the revised plans, and we'll let the applicant in his rebuttal walk through and respond to what you had to say, obviously.
Sure.
Okay, so that's
for what it's worth, it looks like a lovely home. We have some concerns with the size and how close to our property.
Okay. Great. Okay. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Schwartzman? If not, we can move on to the next speaker, the last speaker, Mr. Choles from the Long Branch Neighborhood Association.
Hi, my name is Andy Choles. I'm from the Long Branch Neighborhood Association. I live at 12 Jasmine Avenue in Long Branch. Looking back through my files on this property, a number of applications to development, including a severance in the past. I'm glad that didn't go through. The LBNA has been accused far too often of being anti-development and being some sort of petulant child standing in the way of everything that's proposed by developers and builders. We are not opposed to renewal of housing in our neighborhood. We are in favor of responsible development that respects the neighborhood character and, of course, preserves a tree canopy. This home has an FSI that is a bit above 0.35 at 0.4999. First time I've had 3 decimal places for a FSI. But truthfully, it doesn't look out of scale with other homes in the area. What's most impressive about the design is the effort that has gone into preserve the trees, and this is truly appreciated by our association. We usually are not in the habit of endorsing any home outright to be built in the area, but I'd like to say I'm mildly pleased with this house design. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to make just a general comment. You start off by saying that you're sometimes the associations, yours and perhaps others, and that we've gotten to know over the years working in the committee. But to me, it's incredible that people, I assume these are not paid positions, and the time that you and Ms. Gibson and Ms. Mercado put into these applications and staying on the line in the old days, having to come down to the, the various council chamber down at the Etobicoke Civic Center, just remarkable that people put in so much time and effort into something that they're not paid for. So kudos to all of you in the various, not just this neighborhood association, but all of them.
Well, we do live in the neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. But you put in a lot of your time. Okay, so let's go back to nice to see them. Parties have tried look like work together to come to some consensus. Let's go back to Mr. Bendus to just respond to what the neighbors about the neighbor and Mr. Scholes about to say, and then we'll see if anyone has any questions or if someone's ready to weigh in.
Thank you, Speaker. And Jonathan, I do, respect the comments and respect the concerns and, respect you guys as neighbors and I would probably have similar concerns if I were in your shoes as well. So
Yeah, please you direct your comments to the chair. Not
directly for this for the 3 or 4 feet off of the property line. We actually are 3 feet off the property line. We're not right up against it as the garage was. We've pushed it 3 feet to appease setback requirements. The platform in the back, we've removed the 2 platforms variance to only have 1 platform to meet those conditions. The 499, I agree that it is above the 0.35. However, within the neighborhood, most recently as November 30th, there was a 0.51 pass. So I think that, and around the corner there, if you can actually take a look right there, the footprint is fairly similar and not egregiously bigger. If you take a look at the house before the existing site plan, you can see that the house is, in its current state, almost dwarfed by the adjacent structures. It's quite small compared to the neighbors. So, adding something that matches closely the neighbors is a sizable addition. So yeah, my comments are that, Jonathan, I'll go over the plans with you and make sure that we're happy and that you're happy with, the construction process and not affecting your property. And I do feel that, the changes are minor, although, minor compared to current standards, not based on what it is right now.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for any of the speakers, members, or is someone ready for a motion?
Danny Bellissimo is ready to make a motion if there are no further questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I find that the interior layout of this house is pretty tight as well, if that wasn't mentioned, and it makes it very difficult to make the house any smaller, although side setbacks are not a variance. So I'd like to move for approval. I find the proposal minor in nature, based on the revised submission waiver. It would be variance 1, 2, and 3, as 4 and 5 have been eliminated. I don't believe there are any conditions. Thank you.
There's, I believe, urban forestry condition 2.
Sorry, I forgot about that.
Okay, go to second.
Just sorry, guys. The 5 has not been eliminated. 5 is still.
Sorry, we're in a motion right now.
Yeah. Okay. Can we get the revised up on the screen? The revised notice and the additional materials back up.
That pertains to driveway width.
Yeah, and you were just cut off. I didn't hear that. Can we see the plan up on the board, staff? The highlighted one and the additional materials.
Yeah, sorry, through you, Michael. We're working on it.
Sorry, through you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Sorry, I didn't actually see it on the waiver, but it is actually included on its waiver, so it should not be eliminated. Sorry, it is still.
No, but on the revised material that we received, variance 5 is crossed out.
I know, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, when I redid the revision sheet, I didn't see it on his waiver, but it's the very last one here. You can see it. Oh, sorry. Let me share my screen. Hold on 1 second.
Thank you.
See, it's right there. It's the last one. So it is actually still included, so it should not be eliminated.
So as mover, I'm going by what was sent as additional material, and 4 and 5 are in red and completely crossed out. So you're saying that what we received as additional material is not correct, right? Number 5 still remains as is.
Yes, sorry, number 5 should still be there.
So,
That was.
So then I would revise my my motion then, so that it would be 1, 2, 3, and 5. So 4 is changed, but 1, 2, and 3 are as per the waiver, correct?
Yes.
The highlight was a change.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. But number 5 as per the original submission.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Danny. Second. So on the revised motion of approval, you have a seconder. Mr. Kamarick?
Second, and forestry condition 2 is still in
Yes.
place as well.
Yeah, I clarified that. Okay, thank you. All in favor? Another unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Dembas, and thank you to Mr. Scholes and Mr. Schwartzman for participating as well. Okay, we'll move over to item number 9, 57 Riverwood Parkway. This is to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, 2-story rear additions on the east and west side. There are 5 variances, urban forestry condition number 2. We have a cover letter, a presentation, a TRCA wants the site plan revised. We have an arborist report, 2 conditions from community planning to use the bird-friendly and dark sky treatments for exterior lighting. And
there's no site plan request. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Ravines has no conditions, and we have support from the next adjacent neighbor at 59. Yeah, I just had a TRCA. Was there some reference to a site plan? Let me just see. It says there's just a reference on the, I just saw that on the, in the bookmark. I didn't quite understand what that meant, but I figured I just mention that. So perhaps we should clarify what that bookmark deals with. I see when you press on it, the arborist report comes up. But in our bookmark, we have TRCA site plan to review. Can someone just, perhaps we get into this, just weigh in to see what that means? Or am I missing something?
I think it's just to show the stable top of bank.
Oh, so that's
TRCA
drawing, that's the
confirm.
drawing above the cone and master there, that one there, if we can hone in on that. So that's what we were talking about, right? That's what it says. For zoning review purposes only, TRCA staff can confirm the stable top of bank. So the relevance of that document in our package. Okay, so while we're dealing with that, we do have so the speakers on this application. We have 2. We have Barbara Vokak Taylor as the agent, and as well as we have the neighbor from 53 and 55 Parkway. Someone speaking on behalf of those neighbors, both adjacent. Oh, sorry, the 2 adjacent on one side, 53 and 55. Okay, so I guess we'll. The agent, Ms. Taylor. Hello, did we lose anything? Are we online or hello, anyone?
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, I was just
Yeah.
waiting to be muted.
Okay, thank you.
Good
I thought
morning.
maybe we lost the room or something. Okay, so we're Barbara Vokak Taylor.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman and
morning.
respected committee members. Thank you for your time and consideration this morning. My name is Barbara Vokach Taylor, and I'm the architect and owner's agent for the requested minor variance at 57 Riverwood Parkway.
Yep.
So I'll just go through a really brief summary to explain the application.
Great.
As mentioned, the project for the subject property involves a renovation addition of a 2-story residence on existing foundations, with 2 rear additions are proposed to square off the ground floor footprint to align with the existing rear wall and rear setback. A second floor addition is also proposed to replace the existing split level floor. The family is looking to update their mother's current home to accommodate their family of 5 children and also their aging in place elderly mother. The existing proposed house and conditions, the footprint, height, and setbacks are substantially the same. However, the proposed replacement and minor changes have triggered multiple minor and technical variances that are largely due because the existing house is located in a TRCA regulated area and a ravine and natural feature protection area. The first 2 variances request that the maximum GFA and setbacks be made in line with the requirements for GFA and setbacks as if they were measured from the property line rather than from the stable top of bank as specified for this particular property. And I'll speak briefly about those variances in order. If we can go to figure 1, the permitted maximum gross floor area is to a maximum of 0.5 FSI with 301.31 meters squared. The altered dwelling proposes 348.5 meters squared, which is a FSI of 0.58. However, here the lot is measured from the stable top of bank. If one could include the lot area as measured from the property line, the lot, the GFA would measure 329.7 meters squared. And as is typical, if one could subtract the areas of the voids as well as the area of the garage, the resulting GFA would be 296.1 meters squared, resulting in an FSI of 0.45, which is actually under the 0.5 FSI maximum. If we go to figure 2, I will speak about the setbacks. The shoreline hazard limit or stable top of bank that crosses the lot sets a minimum 10-meter setback from that shoreline hazard as identified by the TRCA. The altered dwelling would be located such the second story would be 7.87 meters from the stable top of bank, and the first story would be 8.17 meters from the stable top of bank. Again, due to the site-specific requirements and the existing nature of the site, the rear setback distance is reduced due to the current location of the stable top of bank, which is noted here in the blue dashed line. Furthermore, the existing house is located within the shoreline hazard limit. The proposal requests a variance to measure the rear setback from the existing property line as indicated by the green line. If so, the proposed rear setback would fall within the maximum allowable for this property, which is 7.5. And the second story setback would then be 11.33 meters from the property line, and the second story would be 11.73 meters from the property line. And as you can see, what is being proposed does not reduce the rear existing setback and also is further setback than the two neighboring properties. The proposed scheme does not adversely affect the surrounding properties or neighborhood in general. Moving on to variance 3 and looking at figure 3, what has been proposed is to slope the roof to maintain a common front eave line of the street, and the variance is requested to provide interior headroom in those two dormer window areas that we feel is minor in nature, and you can see the extent of the areas for that variance indicated in red. And I would note that the proposed scheme does not exceed the overall height requirements. Moving on to, oh, sorry, I should summarize that. The maximum permitted height for all exterior main wall heights is 7 meters, and what is being requested is 7.42. Looking at figure 4, yep.
Sorry, Barbara, I don't mean to interrupt, but you've reached your 5 minutes, so if you could just wrap up, please.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, she's gonna start like 25 seconds late, so let her just go a little bit longer. But yeah, if you can just try to wrap up, please.
Okay, for sure. So again, figure 4, we are also requesting a height variance from required 7 meters to 7.42, minor in nature, not visible from the street level. There is one final request for a variance for a platform required or maximum is 4 meters and requesting 6.7. And that's indicated required in red and proposed in blue. We believe these variances pass the 4 tests as minor, as appropriate development for the use of the land and minor in nature, and your consideration for approval of the application would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, thank you. I just want to point, so just a question for you on figure 2. So you basically, this TRCA set, and we know that TRCA has no objection. They
correct
on several, and they said there's no condition on this one. It looks like that blue dotted line goes through the adjacent properties as well. You're not alone. That there is construction in that between those two dotted blue lines on the adjacent property. See on this. Okay, thanks so much. So we'll now hear from, I guess we have one neighbor speaking on behalf of 53 and 55 Riverwood Parkway. And we do have a letter of support from the other neighbor on the other side at 59. Okay, so the next speaker, does anyone have any questions, first of all, for Ms. Taylor before we move on to hear from the other speaker? Okay, if there's no questions at this time, let's hear from James Sproula.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. We support the project. We own the two buildings next door, 53 and 55. We live at 94 Riverwood. And 21 years ago, we were before this committee asking for a second-story addition, very similar in nature with some minor variances. I've been traveling and hiding from the pandemic. And when we got the notice, I was away. I didn't have an opportunity to visit the site because I'm still not back. I won't be back until Saturday. And I didn't know whether there'd be other opposition or there would be other support. But we support the project.
Okay, good. So it's not an opposition. You were just weighing in to give your support. That's wonderful. So I guess no need to see if there's any questions for this neighbor. I mean, there's no need for a rebuttal. So let's see if committee members have any questions for the agent. Thank you, Mr. Sproul, for weighing in and staying on the line for that purpose. And otherwise, let's see if someone's ready for a motion. We do have urban forestry condition number 2. As well as the planning conditions.
Danny Bellissimo would like to make a motion if there are no further questions. I find this design very respectful of the street, especially with the slope roof at the second floor, sloping back, and with the dormers breaking up that overall second floor. I find all the variances are, in my mind, minor in nature. I move for approval subject to the condition by forestry.
And planning. As well as the planning conditions, Mr. Bellissimo?
Yes, sorry, and the planning condition, sorry, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Second for Mr. Bellissimo's motion. Mr. Palmer, thank you.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, you have your approval. It's unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Thank you to Mr. Sproula.
Very much.
Okay, let's perhaps do the next application and perhaps have a break. Item number 10 is 24 Edgecroft Road. It's an application for it's to construct a new rear deck with cold storage underneath and a new swimming pool in the rear yard. A previous Committee of Adjustment decision back in February 2019 approved variances relating to lot coverage, floor space index, front and side yard setbacks, soffit height, and a platform setbacks and area. And there are now 3 variances with respect to this this application. We have the opposition from 32 Edgecroft. We have support from 22, 28, 20. I think there's at least one duplication. I don't know. It said, at first I said 7 letters of support, but there appears to be some duplication. So it is what it is. So speakers on this application is the agent, Elena Lacheva, as well as a neighbor at 32 Edgecroft, who wrote in opposition. Ms. Lacheva, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Elena Lacheva and I am the agent for this application. We are proposing a cold storage room under the rear deck and to build an in-ground swimming pool in the rear yard. The building length and building depth variances are a result of the counting of the cold storage depth into the total length and depth of the building. The cold storage is not going to be connected to the interior of the house. It will be accessed through a door on the landing of the basement walkout. The exterior of the building is not going to be changed except for this door. And the coverage of the lot is not going to be changed either. The soft landscaping reduction is a result of building a swimming pool in the rear yard and providing a walk around the swimming pool. And we're asking for 6% reduction from the 50% minimum. Based on we have 6 letters of support, 1 objection from number 32, no conditions, and we believe that the proposed variances are minor in nature and they're respectful and fit well in the neighborhood in scale and nature. Thank you.
Thank you. So these first two variances, the length of just under 3 meters and the depth of under 3, that's below ground?
Yeah, it's completely below ground, below
Okay, so
the approved deck.
Okay, so
The design
is-
is similar of the cold room under the front porch.
yeah, so that's not visible to any member of the public, to the neighbors, to anyone else. And so you're basically here because you're deficient in about, 12 square meters in soft landscaping. That's
Yes,
basically.
this is because of the walk around the swimming pool.
Right. Okay, so let's hear from, if anyone has any questions for Ms. Lecheva. If not, let's hear from the neighbor, Mr. Wilson, who wrote in his letter at number 32. Mr. Wilson, welcome.
There we are. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. We sent in a fairly lengthy submission. I'll just go to the main points related to the variances. I think we're all aware of time limits and so forth. The requested variances aren't minor. The proposed variances are in addition to those previously granted with respect to increases in lot coverage and decreases in setbacks. The consequent reduction of soft landscaping areas is a matter of overall concern with regards to drainage and so forth. And that's really what we are seeing, and the reason we're objecting is this is a general trend in the neighborhood to reducing the soft landscaping and consequently the drainage problems will just increase in the area. So that's the core of our objection. And I do have to add, the owner of the house, Omar, is a thoroughly decent person, and we've known him for a couple of years now. So this is not personal. It's very much just an overall concern with the direction that is taking place in the neighborhood. If this is approved, then the next one will be a little bit further and so forth. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, you did start off by saying, again, it's the overall, I know creeping gradualism every single application, but unfortunately, all they have before us is this one application for 12 square meters reduction in landscaping to accommodate the pool. This application it's exactly 3 years ago. It's not like, sometimes they come in 3 months later and you say, they maybe purposely came in after the fact because they didn't want to hit the committee with everything at once. But this is 3 years ago, albeit during COVID. So that's all this before us is 12 square meters. So committee members, any questions for Mr. Wilson, or we can go back to Ms. Lecheva for a brief rebuttal, and then we can see if you're ready for a motion. Any questions for the neighbor? Okay, if none, let's go back to Ms. Lecheva.
Hi, as I previously mentioned, we are not changing the exterior of the property, just this door, which is in the basement landing walkout. And the coverage, the previously approved coverage for the from 3 years ago is 34.4, and we are not changing that. And the only reason to reduce the soft landscaping, we know this neighbor likes gardening a lot, and they're really concerned about them. It's only to accommodate a walk around the proposed swimming pool.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
I have a question, Stan Kumar, for the applicant. I'm assuming you would not be opposed to us tying this to the site plan, given that what you're looking for is essentially the below grade and nothing above grade.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, or Mr. Kamarik, are you ready for a motion?
I'll, since I've started, I'd be glad to do a motion. I believe the application meets the 4 tests and is minor in nature. I would therefore like to move approval subject to it being tied to the site plan with regards to the length and depth of the building.
Okay, so that would be the typical wording, construct as illustrated on the site plan dated whatever with respect to length and depth. Thank you. And there is no urban forestry or any other conditions. So I have a seconder for that motion.
I'll second, Palmer.
Thank you. All in favor? Another unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Lasheva. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a nice day.
Thank you. So it's now 11 o'clock. We've been at this for an hour and a half, so appropriate time to take a 10-minute break with everyone's permission and indulgence. Thank you. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay. Okay. Everyone's back. We get started again. Item number 11 is 21 Homeview Avenue. It's an application for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. We have a revised notice sheet, revised notice and waiver and plans highlighted with, they were 7 variances, they're now 4. It's for a detached dwelling with an attached garage. And Urban Forestry is looking for conditions 2 and 3. All we have is Metrolinx advisory. However, in the additional materials just received yesterday, we do have 2 concerns from 19 Homeview with respect to the length. And we do have speakers registered to speak as well from 35 and 31 Homeview.
Sorry, through you, Mr.
As well
Chair.
as a letter from the neighbor
Sorry, through you, Mr.
at
Chair.
19. So the speaker, the applicant is Khalid Ibrahim. The architect is the agent for the owners. Welcome, sir. Hello? Am I online? Okay, everyone can hear. So staff, is Khalid Ibrahim there on the line?
Sorry, just 1 second, sir. Chair Hardin Brown from 34 Homeview will not be speaking today, so it's only going to be Jolanta from 31 Homeview. And you have Khalid now.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And we do have the letter from the neighbor at 19.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Khalid Ibrahim from IDIM Architects. I'm the architect and the agent for this application. As you mentioned, we eliminated 3 variances, and now we are requesting a relief of only 4 variances. The proposed FSI is 0.84 times the lot area, and permitted is 0.8 times the lot area. Variance number 3 is the side yard setback on the east and the west sides. And number 4 is the building length. Number 5 is the main wall height. So as a result, we believe that our application meets the 4th test. So I am happy to answer any questions. And I think it's a straightforward application.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Ibrahim at this point, or we'll hear from the neighbor at 31? Okay, so Jolanta Lack.
Good morning. My name is Jolanta Lack, and I'm speaking for myself and for Anita Szczecińska. We live at, as you know, 31 Homeview Avenue. We are both interior designers. And we are not opposed to the construction of a new building, but we have 2 concerns, and well, they are very similar to some concerns raised by one of the previous speakers. The first one is the sunlight. We experienced a problem with the sunlight after one of our neighbors built a new house. The size of the building is such that we lost a lot of sunlight in our backyard in the afternoons, and we are our concern is that it will be a problem for our neighbors as well. So that's the first thing.
Sorry, not for you, but for your neighbors. I know
our neighbors, yes.
You're
yes.
at 31, so you're several
Right.
houses away.
So
okay.
Yeah, this is just based on our experience, and this is a concern we would like to bring up to your attention. The second one is the problem of stormwater, melting snow, etc. So basically, it's a problem of climate change. Well, with a bigger house on this lot, this water will still have to go somewhere. So it's either the city systems or its neighbors' backyards. So as I mentioned, this is not that we are against the construction, but we would like to take these 2 problems in consideration. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the neighbor, or is or back for the applicant, or is someone ready for motion? And we do have urban forestry conditions 2 and 3.
Yes, if you could please just bring the site plan
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Mr. Ibrahim, sorry, you have a chance to respond to those concerns.
Okay.
From the neighbor several houses away. About
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we read the letter from the owner of number 19 HOMEVIEW. So actually, we comply with the building length on the basement and the main floor. So the variance of the building lengths came only for the second floor because we had a small projection. But if you look at the east side, there is a huge tree there. So our building will not compromise the sunlight because the tree is already there and provide a nice shade to the neighbor backyard. So regarding the grading, yeah, for sure, we're gonna take care of that because when we apply for building permit, we have to prepare the grading plan and to make it satisfactory to the city.
Okay. Okay, members, any questions for Mr. Ibrahim? There's someone ready for a motion.
Danny Belisma has a quick question regarding the cross section of this house. I noticed your basement is 12 feet, is it 11'6" high, floor to ceiling, and then you have first floor and second floor quite high as well. Can you explain why it has to have that height?
Yes, yeah, because actually the lot is narrow and the owner wants to have an attached garage. So the only way to accommodate the garage is to raise the main floor above the garage. So we didn't exceed the main wall height, sorry, the building height, because the permitted building height is 11 meters and we are providing 9.05 meters. So we try to be within the neighbor character and not increasing the building massing. So that's the reason why we had that higher basement height.
And the other floors as well, they got a 10-foot and a 9-foot.
Yes, right. Regular floors.
The only reason why you had to go to 10 feet and 9-foot high and for the ceiling heights on the second and first floor?
Yeah, because this is now the common heights. Everyone loves those heights, and we, as I mentioned, we are still below the maximum permitted height, 2 meters below. So we are not exceeding the height. Yeah.
Yeah, the only height variance is 0.5 meter for the side exterior main wall. I sometimes also notice when they have excessive interior floor heights when it results in a large height variance, but in this case, it doesn't do that. So
exactly.
All the yeah. Any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
Just a quick question with regard to side yard setbacks. I don't like to see large side yard setbacks on a new build, but I'm assuming that this is because of the narrow nature of this lot. Question for the applicant.
Yeah, yes, yeah. As I mentioned, the lot is narrow and we did our research and the committee approved 0.6 meters before. So even we are adding 0.9 meters on the east side to be away from the neighbor. And we compromise the building width. So we tried to make the house away from number 19.
Okay.
Okay.
Unless there's any other questions, I find the application to meet the 4 tests. I would therefore like to move approval as revised, subject to forestry conditions 2 and 3.
Thank you.
Danny Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, the next application is item number 12, 6 Cowley Avenue. It's for to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. And we have one variance, FSI, from 0.45 to 0.47. So we're less than 12 square meters. Otherwise, there's no variance. We have urban forestry requesting condition number 3. Marin Zabzuni is the agent. Welcome, Mr. Zabzuni.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Marin Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway.
Okay,
Yes,
what's the matter here? Like, you only have one variance of less than 12 meters here.
Correct. That's the only thing we're asking for. It's pretty straightforward. The client is not looking for much more. So, yeah, let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, kudos to you and your client for building something that more or less meets the bylaw and you build. If
Thank you.
everyone did that, committee would be out of business. So
Yeah, yeah.
no chance of that happening. Any questions for Mr. Zabzumi on this application? And if not, is someone ready to weigh in with a motion? Mr. Taylor.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. I find the requested variance meets the 4 tests, and I move approval subject to urban forestry condition number 3.
Oops, thank you. Seconded for Mr. Taylor's motion. Mr. Palmer, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Zabzumi. I think we'll see you here again in a few applications.
Yep. Thank you.
Next one is item number 13, 15 Belfry Avenue. And we have a revision page on this revised notice, highlighted in yellow to show changes. In this case, there was only the one variance, and what has changed is not that, but the purpose of the application. It was initially to install a pool fence enclosure. Now it says it's to maintain the existing above ground swimming pool. And there is only the distance from the rear lot line. That's the only variance. Interesting application here. We have photos. We have Councillor Grimes not opposed. We have had support, and then we have a series of retraction letters on the support. One very long letter from item number 9 and number 12, 8-page letter, which perhaps is self-explanatory, to discuss why there was a support and then why the support was retracted. So we'll hear more from this from the applicant. I would take it. Actually, the applicant is the owner, Enrico Scirocco, and then we also have the neighbor from 11 Belfry registered to speak. So welcome, Mr. Scirocco.
Good morning. I'm assuming you can hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. So my name is Enrico Scirocco, and I'm the owner, along with my wife, of 15 Belfry Avenue. While I am prepared to speak about our original minor variance request, a few days ago we were made aware of a potential second variance in our application, and therefore we've requested the zoning examiner to re-review our application. The zoning examiner that reviewed our original application is no longer working at the city, and the file is now under review by a different examiner who needs to review the application. So given this, I'm respectfully requesting a deferral of my hearing. So if a second variance is required, they can be reviewed by the committee at the same time.
Obviously. Okay. So yeah, and again, so I guess we won't get into this explanation, but this is above ground pool. And there was some discussion from neighbors, this is the best place for it. And then something happened. There was some we won't get into all of that if it's being deferred in any event to potentially identify further variance now that you have a new plans examiner on the file. So we'll, committee members, any questions for Mr. Scirocco? Or else we'll just get the neighbor on the line just to discuss the issue of that the applicant is now requesting a deferral.
I just wanted a clarification. There was some talk about an easement. Is there an easement on this property?
There is an easement. I did speak to, when I spoke to the plans examiner, or the manager, that was kind of taking over.
And is that the nature of the issue that you're going back for?
When I spoke to her about that specifically, she said she doesn't have an issue with that at all. It's not a city-owned easement, so she didn't have an issue with that at all. And it wasn't shown on the site plan. The reason why I didn't show it is the website, the city website that shows that indicates all the requirements for a pool fence enclosure. It doesn't list that an easement should be shown on the site plan. I didn't show it. It's all for above overhead wires for Rogers and Bell, so I don't. And the pool itself does not sit in.
Yeah, in any event, if this matter is being deferred, there's no point, I believe, to go in any further. It was Mr. With your permission, Mr. Kamarick, if we can perhaps leave that for another day, and as well as the whole kerfuffle over the approval and then the retraction, there was no need to get into that. Perhaps they can If it is still relevant, they'll deal with that when they eventually come back here, if things aren't resolved. But let's get the neighbor, and I guess the neighbor who's on the line is the one who's, you know, again, prepared a very detailed 8-page, very well done letter with photos and diagrams. So we won't deal with this today, but we will on another day. Gail Madison.
I'm here. Can you hear? Thank you.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I guess I'll make it very brief because I just found out that this was being deferred.
Yeah, we're not
we're
going to
just
hear it on the merits today. We don't want to hear anything on the merits. That'll be saved for another day. I do have your letter here, your 8-page letter. But we just want to discuss the issue. He's asking for a deferral, which he's certainly entitled to, and especially if there is additional variances to be identified. And that'll give everyone some time to sort of deal with this and perhaps figure out what's going on and come back. So just wanted to touch base on the issue of the deferral and acknowledge that we do have this well-prepared letter that you prepared here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the time.
Okay, so you're okay with the deferral and perhaps...
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perhaps
No,
Mr. be in touch and or committee with respect to further dealing with this matter.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, members, so I guess we need a motion to defer.
Andy Bellissimo would like to move for deferral based on what information we just received. Thank you.
Seconder for that. Mr. Taylor, thank you. Everyone's hands went up more or less at the same time. All in favor, matter is deferred. We'll see you back here again.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, the next application is item number 14, 15 Edenbrooke Hill. This is, again, we have a revised notice on this application. So we have the revision page dated February the 8th, as well as revised plans and waiver to go along with that. The change in this is only to one of the 14 variances. I believe we have one variance has changed. The height has gone down from 0.5 meter. Other than that, we have 14 variances on this application. We have a cover letter. We have planning is looking for a condition of approval. Ravines is opposed to any grading change in their area of protection. Oh, sorry, my mistake. 4 of the 14 have been marginally reduced, not just one. I didn't move the page. So there are 14 variances. 4 of them have been reviews. Transportation has no objection. And we have number 17 in objection to this application. We also have the representative of item number 17, Edenbrooke, here to make submissions with concerns and opposition. So agent is David Eagleman. Welcome, Mr. Eagleman.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
So we do have a revised plan and a revised cover letter from you and we have the planning conditions and the opposition. So perhaps you can refer to that in your presentation.
Yes, so good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. Through you, Mr. Chair, would the committee like a presentation?
I believe I certainly would. We do have some.
No problem.
Members, would you like a presentation?
No problem. So
you are fine with the planning conditions of approval?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, we are okay with the recommended conditions from planning staff, and the reductions to the variances that we have made are a result of our consultation with planning staff.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and fellow committee members. My name is David Eagleman, and I'm a planner at Design Plan Services. Before getting into the variances, I would like to note that we have consulted extensively with community planning staff regarding this application and have made revisions to the proposal to their satisfaction. I'm aware of the
You
recommended.
know what, Mr. Eagleman, you know, I don't think, you know, I was looking, there are a lot of, because of this ravine, so there's, I figured just with the amount of variances, but you can just, you know, be brief. And, you know, you have your 5 minutes, you don't have to use your whole 5 minutes.
No problem, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I will be brief. So, I will note that I'm aware of the recommended conditions from planning staff. They are acceptable. I will note that transportation staff have no objections, and I'm also aware of the recommended conditions from both urban forestry and RNFP, and those.
Oops.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. You were just briefly couldn't hear you, but you're back. Everyone can hear
Yes.
you? Okay.
So we are acceptable to all the recommended conditions. I will note that the reason we have the number of variances that we do is really a result of two things. Firstly, the grading condition of the subject property, and also the reverse pie kind of tapered lot configuration, as well as the fact that the subject property is subject to very nuanced requirements as per bylaw 569/2013. We are actually subject to two separate exception zones, and as a result of this, a number of the variances have repeated themselves. For example, variance number 1, 4, and 5 are all pertaining to the side yard setbacks, and the proposed side yard setbacks are only for pinch points along both sides of the east and west side of the dwelling. The side yard setback on the east side is actually 1.8 meters for a majority of the dwelling, and on the west side is 1.8 meters for a majority of the dwelling, and on the east side, the side yard setback is 2 meters or greater for most of the wall, and is 2.4 meters at its widest point. Variance number 2 is a technical variance that is only required because we are requesting variances to the exception zone. The proposed FSI is only 0.02 times larger than what is permitted, or 494 square feet, which will be spread over 2 floors. The variance number 6, this is largely a result of the meandering front lot line, again, and the tapered lot configuration. The actual lot frontage, when you take into account, not from a bylaw perspective, is 28.92 meters. So because of the unique front lot line, the lot frontage from a bylaw perspective is actually 5 meters less than the actual lot frontage of the subject property. Regarding variance number 7 and 8, the established grade of the subject property is actually 0.88 meters below the actual finished grade, as a result of the unique grading condition of the property. And the proposal will actually be at a height of 9.8 meters from the actual grade, which is only 30 centimeters greater than what is permitted by the bylaw. We also are proposing a sloped roof design, and the proposed height will have little to no impact further than what is contemplated by the bylaw. Variance number 9 and 10, both of these variances pertain to the side exterior main wall height, and again, it's measured 0.88 meters below grade. So the actual wall height as perceived is 7.82 meters at the front of the dwelling, and at the rear of the dwelling, it would actually be perceived to be at an even lesser height because the grading slopes upwards towards the rear. Variance number 11 and 12 both pertain to the front entrance height. Again, this is largely due to the established grade. And variance 13 and 14 are very marginal variances. So based on the provided justification, I'm of the opinion that this proposal fits in with both the existing and planned context for the neighborhood, is consistent with the redevelopment trends along Edenbrooke Hill and the broader neighborhood. And for these reasons, I believe the application represents good planning and meets the 4 tests.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eagleman, for walking through those. You're right, there were a lot of, you explained very well why there were so many variances based on unique configuration of this particular lot and its grading. So let's now hear if I use, as you
Can
know,
I have may I ask a question, please?
Yes, sure.
I wanted to get clarification on variance 12. The applicant's indicating that that has to do with the front entrance as opposed to a balcony or something?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. It is pertaining to the front porch, although the variance is intended to be applicable to a platform such as a deck or balcony, but because of the grading condition, the front porch is captured within that requirement.
Okay, and just a further question on the same regard. In the variance, it doesn't say what you're actually seeking, though. It only says what the requirement is.
Through you, Mr. Chair, are you, Mr. Komorik, are you
Yes,
referring to the
correct.
public notice?
Yes. I'm just wondering if we have a notice issue there.
I'm just pulling it up.
Good catch, we do.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, the actual number is missing from that revised notice.
Wonderful.
Well, it's missing on the original notice as well. Is it something you can comply with?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is not something we can comply with because we would have to change the front entrance design completely.
So then the application will have to be deferred.
No.
We haven't given proper notice.
That's the trouble with so many variances. I guess this one got sort of missed in terms of it just stated. Good catch, Mr. Kamar.
Yeah, it confused me because I kept looking for where is this balcony on the floor plan, and
Anyway, catching it now, then later on and finding you couldn't proceed, right? So. So I guess we don't really need to hear Mr. Ashbourne on behalf of the neighbor on the merits at this point if we're not going to be proceeding. Do you agree with that, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Yes, we haven't given proper notice.
Okay.
I'll move a motion to defer, and perhaps we can get a cleaned up notice next time around.
Okay. Yep. Okay, motion to defer, seconded by
Danny Bellissimo.
Thank you, Danny. All in favor, matter is deferred. Let's just weigh in with Mr. Ashburn just to say hello. Mr. Ashburn.
Hello, Mr. Chair.
I know you've been chomping at the bit to give us your 5 minutes, but it's not going to happen today for if you assume you've been listening in.
I have been, and I certainly would love to give my objection, but I will wait for the official date that we're on.
Right, and if you have any discussion with Mr. Eagleman as to how any way of resolving your client's concern, then in the intervening period, all the more. If not, then we'll see you back here at another time when this matter gets back on another agenda when we have proper notice.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So let's return to the motion. We had a mover, we had a seconder. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. The matter is deferred in order to provide proper notice due to this problem with item variance number 12.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we can move on then to the next application, which is item number 15, 45 Ambleside Avenue. And this is another Mr. Zabzuni's application, and again another revision page highlighted in yellow to show the changes. So in this case, we're looking to build a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There were 6 variances. There are now 4. 2 others. The coverage and the FSI have also been reduced. We have an arborist report, 8 letters of support. Transportation has 4 conditions of approval. Planning was recommending refusal, but that appears to be before the revisions, and we'll have to ask Mr. Zuni about that, whether these revisions are now something acceptable to community planning. And as well, we have urban forestry requesting conditions 2 and condition 5, which is a refusal or a deferral. So, Mr. Zabzumi, you're the only speaker on this application.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Maureen Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway.
Okay, so I see we have revised plans, waiver, revised notice up on the screen. And if you can, first of all, just confirm in your whether this is what community planning wanted you to do.
So we worked with community planning for the last 2 months or so. We made revisions that had numbers slightly higher than this. For example, the lot coverage, we brought it down to 40%, and they wanted us to bring it down further. This is the latest revision to 39.15%. I'm not sure if planning reviewed this latest change or if what their opinion is on it, but I would like to kind of discuss that and present it to you.
Yep, go ahead with your presentation, and committee members that you can read through the planning report yourselves and make an opinion as to what they were whether this is sufficient compliance or not.
Absolutely. So we worked with planning. We significantly reduced and even removed some variances, as you see before you. So we're now requesting 39.15% lot coverage, whereas before we were requesting 46.8. We made the house smaller. This lot is wide at 50-foot lot, but it's not very deep. That's one of the reasons you see these numbers and variances. We also have a one-story breakfast nook that's centered in the backyard, which significantly reduces impact on neighbors or structures. Before it was a little bit deeper, which triggered a rear yard setback variance. So we removed that because we wanted to go in with kind of our best foot forward. The homeowner has lived there for years. This is a family home. So they spend a lot of time working through this. We reduced that, and we also reduced, of course, the FSI down to 0.645 at 314.55 meters squared. There's other properties in the area. So going back to coverage, there is 47 Ambleside that has been approved at 37%, and 29 Ambleside at 38%, and also 46 Oakfield Drive at 43%. These are builds in the neighborhood, in the street that are the closest to the property. However, we've been working and designing projects in this area for a long time. There are higher numbers in streets such as Yorkview and Edgecroft, and those lots are 40 feet wide, so they're narrower, yet allowing more, let's say, coverage and FSI. Now, this street, Ampleside, is mostly comprised of 50-foot lots. So because it's not as deep, that does affect the numbers, the percentages in the proposal. But overall, the homeowner has spoken to neighbors. We've got a lot of support. They're happy to have him kind of build a new home for his family. And the other thing is now, as you know, dealing with working from home measures, the homeowner, they work from home. They need space now more than ever. We're in year 2022. We're not asking the highest numbers in the neighborhood. We just need enough that the homeowners can work with their family in these situations, can have a compatible home for what today's needs are, and to take into account the breakfast nook does add a little bit to these numbers. It's only a one-story projection, so it does add the coverage and FSI a bit. But overall, we really think that this home meets the fourth test and meets what the neighborhood's built forms and development are going with. And we removed as many variances as we could, and we strongly believe this home is compatible. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zibino. Just point out in the planning letter, and it's sort of a moving target. They wrote this letter, you made some changes, they highlighted some changes, you made some future changes. But in fairness, I will just point out, because they're not here to get that they say the floor space index approvals on the street range from 0.49 to 0.61, and you're at 0.65, I believe. And it says you're still above. And they say that I guess the lot coverage in the street range from 30.4 to 37.5, and again, you're higher than that still. So that's just my only comment of sort of comparing to what community planning said compared to what your efforts to come more into compliance. Committee members, any kind, we do have 8 letters of support. So the question is, Many members, any questions for the Mr. Zubzumi?
Yeah, Palmer. Just referring to the transportation comments dated February 11th. And I find the comments a little confusing because specifically with respect to variance number 6, which is the driveway width, and they're saying they'll allow the driveway to be 4.17 meters, which is below, I guess, the zoning and well below the variance that you've requested. And then they're asking for a bunch of conditions. So are you able to satisfy these conditions if you're approved?
I think we would work with transportation. We're not asking for much on the driveway. We would just work with them to come to an understanding. So we would, that's kind of our answer to that. We would just work with them to satisfy this. I'm not sure if it makes sense for width of 4.17 unless they mean maybe towards the front of the property and then opening up, because it is a 2-car garage. But yeah, it's something we'll have to meet and talk to them about.
Well, just so you know, if this condition is imposed, your entire driveway would be limited to 4.17.
Yeah, I would normally, transportation clarifies whether the a difference between the driveway width at the street line and at the garage or within the property. And here they just said the entire driveway has to be 4.17, which is below the zoning. So yeah, Barb's right. You'd have to meet these conditions. So you may not be happy with these conditions.
The other thing is, I think that, I'm not sure, does the neighbor have a driveway right on that side? And maybe that's why it's showing the flared driveway, because otherwise you would limit their driveway access with the second condition.
What, what about,
maybe it's on the other side?
what about if you just dealt with conditions 2, 3, and 4? And, it does say the above shall be undertaken to the satisfaction of transportation services. So that's the big issue, that you're leaving it purely at their subjective. But the issue is, and then you wouldn't perhaps eliminate item 1. It still gives transportation sort of a trump card over this, because it does number 4 say it'll be undertaken to the satisfaction. So if that was an error, then we'd still be leaving transportation an opportunity to weigh in on this and being completely, perhaps, if you're, Mr. Subzumi, comfortable with that, and eliminating variance number, the first condition. If staff, Madam Secretary Treasurer, and other members, if you feel that would be a possible way around this condition. And thank you, Mr. Palmer, for noticing that and bringing that to the attention of Mr. Subzumi, more importantly.
Yes, thank you for that. I think that works for us. I think, many homes we've done in the area, transportation is reasonable overall. So maybe they sent this out in a rush, I'm not sure. But I'd be surprised if we couldn't work it out with them to something mutual that works for the home. So I'm happy to work with them should you approve this application.
So staff, Madam Secretary Treasurer, and other members, do you feel that that's the way around that if we approve 2 to 3, transportation conditions 2 to 4? And they can, battle it out after the fact, rather than have to defer at this point for a perhaps inadvertently erroneous staff report, as you point out, making them comply less than they're entitled to under the bylaw.
Yeah, you can either do that or add the wording, the maximum width of the driveway within the municipal boulevard, but I don't know what their intention was.
Okay, so
perhaps your
leave
motion.
I'll leave it to the member to bring a motion at this point. Someone ready to weigh in on this? Perhaps Mr. Palmer, since it is your catch.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable with a negative or unclear planning report. Planning gave an opinion on the original variances, then it looks like they reviewed the revised variances, but didn't give us really a clear direction on it. And the transportation comments leave me confused. So, you know, I'm hesitant to give approval on this. I just don't think it's clear that the 4 tests have been met. So I'll move for refusal.
Okay. Motion to refuse the application. We have a seconder for that motion. If none, do we have a new motion? Mr. Taylor.
Yes, Mr. Chair, with respect to the confusion from the planning department, I'm not terribly concerned about that because I'm very influenced by the fact that this application enjoys a lot of support from the neighbors. And I think their views are close to, if not equal to, or more than significant than that of the community planning department. These are the people that have to live with what's proposed, and they're supportive. And I'm satisfied that with respect to the transportation recommendations that we should delete their condition 1, because I'm convinced that that was set out in error because the zoning maximum driveway width is actually 6 meters. So I would move approval subject to transportation conditions 2, 3, and 4 and urban forestry condition 2.
Okay, thank you. Seconder of that motion, Mr.
I'll
Camaro.
second.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, opposed, and motion carries 4-1 with Mr. Palmer dissenting. Thanks so much, Mr. Zibzumi.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, our next application is item number 1615 Burrard Road. It's an application to convert the existing dwelling with a secondary suite into a triplex. There are 3 variances. We have supporting material. We have transportation condition of approval. And I guess we have the speaker on this application is Franco Romano, and that's the only speaker we have. We do have supporting materials. We have transportation condition.
Mr. Chairman, Franco Romano here on behalf of the owner.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see we have a, yeah, it's just the only conditions to put a notation on the site plan to revise to clearly illustrate that the owner or landlord shall inform all prospective tenants that an on-site parking space will not be available to all tenants. So that's the only condition proposed.
Yes.
So this with respect to the, we have no comment from community planning with respect to conversion of this dwelling with a secondary suite into a triplex. So if you can please briefly explain what's going on here.
Certainly, sir. The property is under construction. It is a 2-story residential building. It's formatted to look like a detached dwelling, and that's indeed what it does look like. And what you'll see is that it's kitty corner to the Rexdale Mall or the plaza. And the property is located at the corner, and it is within an area that is zoned to permit a variety of building types. And some of those building types include detached residential form, but with more than 1 unit within them, as well as multiplexes, duplexes, triplexes, etc., semi-detached, as well as low scale or walk-up apartment buildings. And you'll see some of those within the aerial photograph. So the purpose behind my showing the aerials is that you'll see that the area contains this variety of residential building forms, but it's also proximate to Islington Avenue, the Rexdale Mall. There's transit along Islington Avenue. It's just north of Highway 401. And the condition that's being proposed for the site is similar to what is already there, which is there is a rear yard parking area. And you'll see even on the aerial photograph that rear yard parking is quite common, even for a detached residential. It's regardless of building type. So the two variances associated with the lot size, or their intent and purpose is to ensure that the site can accommodate the form of residential building that's being proposed. And that is clearly the case in this instance. If we look at the next page, thank you kindly, Ms. What you'll see is the building is well within all of the parameters for building setbacks, building length. The building height is just over, well, it's just about 2 meters shorter than what a triplex is permitted as of right. It's again designed to fit under the parameters of a detached residential building, but it's a triplex. So there's first floor, second floor, and a basement unit, and they're all individually accessed. Okay. The parking variance is to permit 2 spaces instead of 3, and you'll see on the site plan that there are 2 spaces. You can certainly accommodate another one in tandem, but the third on private property in tandem is not recognized as a lawful parking space. And again, transportation has no concerns with the parking variance, and it is near to transit that allows for that type of variance to be accommodated.
Okay.
Subject to any questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Something smells a little disingenuous about this application. I believe it was in 2021 that a building permit was sought for a single-family dwelling with a second suite. Is that correct, Mr. Romano?
Yeah, a building permit has been issued for a dwelling with a secondary suite.
And that dwelling has not been completed.
That dwelling has not yet been completed, no.
So why did they not, they weren't contemplating building a triplex from the beginning?
Well, I think what's happened is that there has been some changes, and perhaps you've seen that within the city as they're dealing with multiplex permissions, and they're still studying that throughout the city, but increasing the ability for properties to include more than one unit.
Well, that's not new. That didn't happen just last month. That's been out there for a while. I'm just saying it just looks like they're trying to they're coming forward with an application now stating that this is an existing building. In my view, it's not an existing building because it hasn't been finished. Anyway, it's just a comment.
Well, that's, that is, I think both sides of those are fair comments, sir. The application is made based on what the zone examination has identified. So the fact that the building is under construction is taken under consideration when the zone examiner identifies what is there today. When an application form is filled out, we need to identify what is there today. So you can't say that it's a vacant lot because it's under construction, and you have to identify.
I understand the semantics. I just have a little bit of an issue with the process. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Romano, or is someone ready for a motion?
Danny Bellissimo is ready for a motion. This is a corner lot, and I find the impact to a triplex in a neighborhood is even less than normal. So I would move for approval, subject to the condition of transportation.
Yeah, thank you. Seconder for that, Mr. Palmer. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval.
Thank you kindly. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Okay, our last hearing matter of the morning agenda is item number 17-9, Old Mill Road. This is to construct an outdoor dining area along the east side of the existing building. There are 2 variances. We have a copy of the site-specific zoning bylaw, a cover letter, and Ravines has advised they have no conditions. It's basically a kitchen/veranda called a outdoor dining area. And we have one speaker, James Ressor of Stanford Downey Architects, as agent for the applicant. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, committee members. I am James Fraser. I'm the architect and the applicant for this minor variance. I've been working with Sabrina, who's my zoning examiner on this project. We are in for permit and just about everything's passed, but we ran into this little variance that we need to talk to you about. There's two variances. We've got these angled property lines, and if you could look at the drawings, I could show it to you real quick, if they could be brought up. There's the site plan. Yeah, you can see that. That's the lower floor, the basement floor. We're not down at that level at all. We're actually 16 feet up in the air. There should be a cover page that shows you a little rendering of it.
And the cover letter?
Yeah, oh no, on the cover page of the drawings. We submitted everything in the drawings for you. Yeah, just at the very top, there's a picture of the old mill inn, and that little balcony on the left-hand side, it's 16 feet in the air, and it just kind of snags the property lines at the two sides there. So we're asking for a variance of those two property setbacks for this. Just for clarification, the description's a little bit different in the application. It's an enclosed veranda. It's 16 feet in the air, and it's just got two little variances on this huge property that we need. I think if you go to drawing A203, it shows the plan. The basement, there's nothing there. We're not putting any footings down there. There's nothing at the next level. It's only at the next level up, so it should be. Oh, somehow I got locked out.
Sorry, I threw you, Mr. Chair. My computer's just frozen.
Oh, yeah, computers are lovely. And of course, I'm the last one just before lunch, so everybody
Mhm.
gets to go eat.
Okay, so let's just see, we, members have had this package before them in any, but let's see if there's any further questions. And we can get on, it's appropriate that we deal with a dining area just before we leave on our lunch break. So any questions for Mr. Razor? Let's see that in the best thing, I think, if you look at the picture of it showing how it juts out into the air.
And there's no property. It's just a Humber River on the side of us. There's
Exactly.
no neighbors.
No neighbors.
It's
No,
a beautiful view.
Yeah.
It's a stone building. It's hard to do renovations inside. This needs what the client would like to do. It'd be lovely.
Is that considered a heritage building, sir?
No, just the foundations at the very bottom. Heritage hasn't had any comments at all so far. We've been architects for this property for a long time, and the basement is the area that's under heritage, and it frequently gets some water that comes up from the Humber River, which is why we're not down there. We're a good 2 stories up in the air and that.
Okay. Panel members, any further questions, or someone ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion, Stan. I'm very familiar with the property. I know that right next to it is actually floodplain and it will never be built on. So I'm feeling very comfortable that this is very minor and very appropriate for the development of that site. So I would like to move approval with no conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Second to that.
Seconds the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. All in favor? Unanimous approval.
Great. Thank you very much.
You have your application has been approved, sir. And we stand adjourned, I guess, until 1 p.m. for we come back to do the afternoon session.
We just do 1:15 because staff are having some issues. And
Yes, absolutely. 1:15 it works fine. And I'm actually going to disconnect because somehow my computer, even though it's plugged in, my camera has gone down to 64% during the morning session, even though it's plugged in. So these webinars, I guess, take a lot of either that or I need a new iPad. Okay, so everyone have an enjoyable lunch, and we'll see everyone back at 1:15 to do the afternoon session.
Thank you.